They say every city's got its secrets, and down in the Mississippi Delta, some secrets cost a hefty price. Today's lore is the man who sold his soul to the devil. The Mississippi Delta. Robert Johnson. He left us with 29 songs, 2 pictures, and hundreds of questions. A man whose name became a warning for all who seek fame and whose story became legend. They say he sold his soul to the devil at a crossroads one midnight, but let's see exactly how he got there. Robert Leroy Johnson was born in Hazelhurst, Mississippi in 1911. He was said to be quiet, curious, and always listening. His childhood was a bit rough. He never met his father, and life with his mom was spent moving from town to town, never really getting a chance to set roots anywhere. He grew up learning how to survive and how to listen, to the wind through the fields, to the creak of wagon wheels, to the way sound could tell a story in ways words couldn't. When his family settled near Memphis, Robert finally had a chance to attend school. There he learned poetry, reading, and even the basics of music. He had an ear that could memorize anything he heard, but when it came to guitar, he just wasn't good. He'd follow local musicians to juke joints and watch them play. Sometimes he'd ask to join in, and that's when people started to notice something peculiar about Robert. They noticed he was ass. Not just, oh, he's learning bad, but painfully bad. Even blues legend Son House said Robert used to show up during their breaks and drive everyone crazy trying to play. People would tell him to stop and at times throw things while he played to get him to stop, but he never did. Robert wasn't trying to simply entertain them. He was trying to find something inside that guitar that no one else could hear. In 1929, Robert Johnson married 16-year-old Virginia Travis. He was deeply in love with her. You could say the only thing he may have loved as much as music. Virginia became pregnant, and with the pregnancy she carried Robert's hope for a home, a child, a full life beyond the Delta fields. But while Robert was out on the road chasing rhythm, and Virginia getting closer and closer to delivering the baby, she went home to her family to give birth. And when Robert finally arrived with his guitar strapped across his back, he found out his beloved wife was gone. The baby was gone too. Virginia and their infant had died during childbirth. The loss hit him deep, and he felt he lost everything. Left with grief, guilt, and a guitar, Robert stepped back into the juke joint nights. With seemingly nothing to lose, and an even greater desire to master his guitar in such a way to tell the story of the pain inside of him in a way his words never could. Robert continued to play, and people continued to cover their ears and wish he would just give up. Then one day, he disappeared. No one saw him for nearly a year. Some said he went to find his real father. Others said he ran away after being laughed and ridiculed to shame from such horrible guitar playing. But one day he came back, and everything changed. The Robert they knew was gone. In his place was a man who could play like nobody else. When he picked up that guitar, the room went still. People said it sounded like 2 guitars at the same time, one playing rhythm, the other playing lead, and both coming from his hands. The man who used to clear rooms was now filling them, and nobody could explain it. As you can imagine, it didn't take long for people to start talking. Some people said he made a deal, that one night Robert walked to where Highway 61 met Highway 49 carrying his guitar, and at midnight a tall man in a long coat appeared from the shadows. Robert handed him the guitar. The man tuned it, then played a few notes, and handed it back. And just like that, Robert Johnson could play like the devil himself. He never confirmed the story, but he also never denied it either. Whenever someone asked about his secret, he'd just smile and say, "You just gotta listen closer." Truth is, he did learn from someone, a man named Ike Zimmerman, and Ike was known for practicing out in the graveyard late at night. He said the sound carried better there, and that the dead didn't mind listening. Robert joined him. They'd sit on gravestones and play until the first light of morning. People who saw it started calling him cursed, but Robert didn't care, because whatever he was chasing, he had finally caught it. In 1936, Robert recorded his first songs in San Antonio. The following year, he recorded more in Dallas, 29 tracks in total: Crossroads Blues, Hellhound on My Trail, Me and the Devil Blues. The music had a raw and powerful feel to it, but it was the lyrics that caught people off guard. He sang about the devil, about hell, about running from something that wouldn't let him go. Now in today's music we hear this all the time, but you have to understand, back then this was absolutely unheard of. To some people his lyrics sounded like a confession, and to others it sounded like proof of the deal he made at the Crossroads. But for Robert, it was the blues, the only way he knew how to talk about pain. The blues weren't just songs, they were life and the sadness and joy that comes with it. People who saw him perform said it was unforgettable. He didn't do too much talking, he'd just lower his head, and when he started playing, you could feel the room change. The lights seemed darker and the air felt thicker. One night, a string snapped mid-song, but Robert didn't stop. He kept playing, and somehow the music didn't seem affected at all. When he finished playing, nobody clapped, nobody moved. They all just stared. That's when people realized, maybe this wasn't some made-up story anymore. Maybe it was real. By 1938, Robert was making a name for himself across the South, performing in small clubs, country dances, pretty much anywhere people would listen. But with fame came trouble. In the words of the late notorious B.I.G., mo money, mo problems. At one show near Greenwood, he started spending time with a married woman, and as you can imagine, her husband wasn't with that mess. They say the husband handed Robert a bottle of whiskey. A friend of Robert, seeing who had given him the bottle, tried to stop him from drinking it, but Robert just smiled and took a swig from the bottle anyway. Hours later, he was violently ill. For 3 days, he suffered all alone in a small shack behind the dance hall, out on the road away from home, with no doctor, no medicine, and no woman to comfort him. Just his guitar at his side. Some say he was poisoned. Others think it was an undiagnosed sickness he hadn't known about. But the legend says his time had come, that the devil had come to collect his debt. Robert Johnson died at 27 years old. To this day, there's no clear cause of death, nor a single grave, just 3 headstones and a whole bunch of stories. One thing was certain, Robert was dead and gone, but his music didn't stay in the grave with him. 20 years later, his recordings were rediscovered. On those vinyl records was heard that same trembling and haunting voice, full of life, and it began to echo again all across the United States. Artists like Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, and Bob Dylan all said the same thing, that Robert Johnson changed the way they understood the guitar, and his influence can be found in their music. And whether they believed the legend or not, they could all hear it. Some say Robert Johnson made a deal with the devil. Others say he just practiced harder than anyone ever had. And who knows, maybe both are true. Another legend that has been spawned from the life and death of Robert was the 27 Club. Robert Johnson was just 27 when he died, and since his death, that number would go on to haunt the music industry. Years later, people started to notice a strange pattern. How many of the greatest artists would meet the same fate at the same age? Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, and Mac Miller, to name a few, all gone at 27. Some say it's coincidence. Others believe it's the same curse that began with Robert at the Crossroads, a price paid for talent too powerful, too soon. Whether it's fate, addiction, or something darker following in his footsteps, the legend of the 27 Club started with him. They say if you listen closely, late at night, when the world's gone quiet, you can still hear that sound, the one he brought back from the Crossroads. So there you have it, the man, the myth, and the legend. Robert Johnson, the man who sold his soul to the devil. So what do you think? Was it just hard work and heartache, or something darker that walked beside him that night? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell me, what city's lore should we dig into next?